from Perth for this show each year, and we also come back for a couple of our other resources shows, so it's great to be back in Melbourne. We love Melbourne. I was not really going to talk about the AFL, just going to leave it, but you know what? There's always that famous saying, you're only as good as your last match. So unlucky to those Essendon supporters and Collingwood supporters and Richmond and Hawthorn supporters out there, because us West Coast and Fremantle supporters, we're on a roll. May have taken West Coast 16 matches to win their first game, but we got it. So good to see so many of you, and thank you for your support and making the effort to come to today's show. We've got 20 companies presenting over the day, very diverse program, lots of different types of tech, some med tech, some biotech, and we also snuck AC/DC in that have some resources tech. So it's going to be a really good day. We had a great time up north on the Gold Coast a couple of days ago on Tuesday. That investment audience really warmed to the companies, and I've no doubt whatsoever that our audience here will also show the outstanding support that our presenting companies received up on the Gold Coast a couple of days ago. As you know, a show like this would not exist without sponsors, and we're very thankful to have the Lynn partners on board. Jeff will be up in New York. He's probably asleep at the moment, so not really aware that we're kicking off the Melbourne TechKnow Invest Roadshow, but he's a tremendous supporter of all the vertical events conferences. And it's great to have Brad here from Social Suite, and Brad will be up later on during our panel to have a chat to you all about the importance of ESG and how, as a community, we need to be embracive and acknowledging the importance that companies are required to comply with this ever-changing landscape that the business world's involved with. So Brad will be able to talk to you a bit more about that. And I'm sure you guys have had enough of me, and you're looking forward to hearing from the great Chrissy Morrissey, and I'll hand it over to her. But Stewie did ring the bell a little late, so we might just pass on to Chrissy and then get straight into things. So have a great day, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jackson. That's Jackson's subtle way to say to me, go and sit down, Chrissy, and don't chat a lot. So I'll chat to you a bit as the day goes on, because most of you who have met me will know that I don't mind a chat or two, especially about technology, because it's one of, and what I like about this room here is you guys are all like a little bit of risk-taking, don't you? Yeah? But I know that you also are all very patient human beings, because obviously the technology sector, you have to wait sometimes a little while to see returns on your investments. But gee, when you do, it can really be worthwhile. We've got the infamous Mr. Brian Leedman joining us later on today. So we might talk to him about ResApp too, which has been an absolute phenomenal success story. Who invested in them 5 years ago, 6 years ago? 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're still here today. Goodness me, I thought you'd be on your private yacht at least, sailing around the world somewhere. I wasn't, and Brian kept saying to me, this is going to be great, Chrissy. You should invest in this. And I'm thinking, really? Something you cough into your phone and it changes the world? And it did, didn't it? $179 billion or whatever it was, not to worry. So there's more potential here in this room today for you. My job is to keep everyone on track and on time, because they are conversations that we'd probably want to have for more than 15 minutes, but I'm going to be fairly brutal. I don't have a bell today. So for our presenters in the room, Thomas, I will catch your eye at 2 minutes. I will give you the signal, and at 1 minute I'll stand up and then I'll start walking over towards them. So when you see me start walking over towards them, you know they need to get off the stage. And I would appreciate it if you would help me, because I can't speak, because what we're doing is we're filming for the ASX. So I can't actually say, Tom, bugger you, get off the stage now, mate, you've had 15.5 minutes. But I will look quite pointed in. You can all clap and that will be their signal to move off the stage. But the great thing about a presentation like this is you have the opportunity, of course, to go and speak to them. We've got morning tea, we've got lunch, and we'd love to invite you to have a couple of drinks with us afterwards as well. And you'll get to know these people personally, so I'm sure they will be able to furnish you with some sort of communication channel, and you can chat with them over the years as your journey grows. So first up today, we've got all sorts of things to improve the world with. We've got hearing, we've got building, mining, ESG, but we're going to start with regrowing bits of your body. Now, I'm at an age where I've actually got an artificial knee. I need my right rotator cuff replaced. There's bits of me falling off all over the place, and I'm sure there's a few of you in the audience who are the same. Do you know there's actually 80,000 people walking around the world at the moment who have regrown bits of their body? 80,000. And that's just the start. And this has been going on for a couple of years. And the company that is the forefront of this technology, we're going to hear from right now. Mark Leong, can I get you to come up and join us? It's a bit hard. Oh, he's up the back there. G'day, Mark. So Mark is the executive chairman of Osteopore, and they've got breakthrough regenerative medical technology able to regrow your tissues, your bones within your own body. So the idea here, at the end of this one, we won't be having bits of metal in our body. We won't be having bits of plastic in our body. We'll be getting this fellow's card, and we'll figure out who in Australia is going to be able to do this amazing surgery for us, and see if it's something we want to put into our investment portfolios. You are first, Mark. Take your 15 minutes.
Thank you, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark. I would like to tell you a bit about what Osteopore is doing. Osteopore is in the regenerative medicine space. We specialize in tissue regeneration. We harness the body's own natural regeneration abilities. We are the world's first company to actually commercialize and develop 3D printed bioresorbable implants. As I said, we are in the regenerative medtech space. It is a very exciting space. It's a new era of healthcare, the future of medicine. Our breakthrough regenerative technology is underpinned by our proprietary 3D printed bioresorbable implants. Now, what is bioresorbable? If you got a gap of, in your body, you miss some bone because of bone cancer or an accident, you put in our implants. It dissolves harmlessly over time, right? The implant will disappear. It's like M&Ms, right? Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Our implants melt in your body. So that's bioresorbable. It doesn't stay in the body. It's not a metal or plastic. It's harmless. The next key thing is that our products are biomimetic. Now that's very important, and that's part of our IP. We biomimic the tissue that we are trying to regenerate. So in the case of bones, we 3D print a structure that has a microporous structure just like bone. So when you put our implants in the body where there is a gap, it creates the perfect environment for your own body's regenerative ability to grow bone over and through the implant. And while that happens, the implant dissolves. All right? So over time, all you have left is your own healthy bone. No metals, no plastics, no bone from another body part, your own bone. So you're effectively resetting the clock to what it was. So to us, that's a superior outcome in terms of repairing your bone. In terms of evolution of surgical implants, a little bit of history. Before the 1950s, there were no such things as implants. If you broke your bone, good luck. Put a cast, tie it up together, fingers crossed, your bone hopefully regrows. In the 1950s, you'll be surprised, came artificial permanent implants, your titaniums, metals, plastics. So that's 1950s technology. And then now, you've got our regenerative implants, where you put it in, it helps your body regrow the tissue, and then the implants disappear. Our implants are proprietary, right? We've got IPs protecting all the 3D printing of designs and things like that. We have multiple applications. We can regrow bones, head to toe. We've got bones the whole body. And it is life-changing. It is life-changing because a lot of people do not know. When you do use implants, permanent implants, metals, plastics, you have up to 33% risk of infections over a 10-year period. 1 in 3 chance of going back, doing the surgery all again. If you use bone grafts, that's safer, but that still gives you an up to 19% risk, so 1 in 5 chance. If you use our product, and then negligible, 0.01. So this gives you do it once properly, get a better quality of life, and because you go in once, you actually reduce your overall healthcare costs. And that underpins the major benefit of our technology on the healthcare ecosystem. In the US, they have studied preventable readmission, which means doing the surgery 2 or 3 times. And it does a huge strain on the healthcare system. They estimated if you save 20% of readmissions, preventable readmissions, you save $15 billion. That's a lot of money. So we believe that With our implants, 0.01% risk of reinfection and complications. We would help in reducing the healthcare strain. Our technology is validated, right? We have tier 1 approvals already, US FDA, Europe CE mark, Australia's TGA, and Singapore's HSA, and more. We have done 80,000 successful cases. We are not doing 10 and celebrating, announcing, yeah, we did our 11 patients. We did 80,000. We have products. We have started commercialization. We are selling in every continent, 25 countries. And obviously, we've got a lot of IP protecting our technology. We 3D print our products, so you got all these different shapes and sizes, standard stuff. These 3 shapes sort of handle 90% of the surgeries that's required. And for the special 10%, because we 3D print, we are able to print customizable implants, any shapes you like. Half a rib cage, a skull, half a jawbone, no problems. Like I said, we have application head to toe. You know, we can handle neurosurgery, dental, aesthetics, long upper body, lower body, the entire body. We have done 80,000 cases, and we have done a lot of standard, mundane, bone regeneration stuff. But we have our fair share of world's first surgeries and life-changing surgeries as well. The first case I'm going to highlight is Ruben. His other option besides using our technology is amputation. So we actually save a bloke from losing his leg. And what's amazing, as you see in this video, is that we help him regrow a 36 cm shin bone. That's the world's longest bone regrown. Doctors are happy if a 1-2 cm bone regrowth. We did 36. And it's shin. So you walk and run in it. It's a load-bearing bone. Video, please.
Was the first patient to undergo the procedure after contracting a bacterial infection in his leg.
It's eaten through the entire bone, pretty much. We're going to have to probably amputate it.
Now, nearly 4 years on, his tibia in his leg has regrown.
The bone's really strong. Can't hurt it now. It's like it's solid. I walk around on it. I do daily things on it.
And that is still the biggest bone defect that's ever been successfully reconstructed in the world.
The second patient, Asha Morris, she's a cancer patient. So to be honest, when we started doing this case, we got a bit worried because we use the body's own regenerative abilities, and a person undergoing cancer, having chemo and radiotherapy, what's going to happen with their regenerative abilities? And thankfully, she managed to regrow a 15 cm shin bone. And as you will see in this news article, she actually surprised doctors with a very swift recovery. Video, please.
Second patient in the world to have a 3D printed implant in her leg to help regrow her own bone. The scaffold for Ash's surgery was printed by Australian-Singaporean company Osteopore. She was able to stand and even navigate stairs weeks before it was expected.
I want to pursue medicine, and I know that.
The third patient is, we talk about permanent implants and all the risks, right? So Brody had a terrible accident in Vietnam, crushed skull, put in a permanent implant, had a life-threatening infection. So he used our implant. Obviously, he's having a new lease of life and taking part in swimming competitions.
The 28-year-old from Cannon Hill has 20% vision, one leg, a crushed skull. He still thinks he's lucky despite the accident in Vietnam, which should have killed him. Initially, he'd been given a different implant, which had been the source of a life-threatening infection.
With my new skull, I have actual bone regrowing in there. I don't have to wear my helmet all the time anymore, which is very nice.
Brodie Ellis racing after regrowing his own skull.
Now for this next page, look, we have a lot of patients. We just shortened it to 4 because, it's too many. John had cancer again as well, and he used now bone graft. He put it on his jaw. He had to replace half his mandible, half his jaw, and the bone graft got absorbed by the body, and he used our implants, and he has now a new lease of life, a better quality of life.
When John Manwaring lost a jawbone to cancer 2 years ago, he never expected to become part of a world-first medical marvel. 58-year-old originally had the jawbone rebuilt with bone from his leg, but that disintegrated under further cancer treatment. It's now coming up to nearly a year since he received a second implant 3D printed by Singapore-based company Osteopore.
I can now walk in the shops without everyone staring at me.
Let's skip this. So we have other videos, in Singapore and Europe, we built half a rib cage, replaced a whole skull. We have tons of that, and happy to share links with you if you are interested. So really, what we are trying to do is to be the standard of care as far as tissue regeneration is concerned. It boggles us that, a lot of people are still relying on technology from the 1950s, permanent implants. Why use a typewriter if you could use a computer? Why use, VHS cassettes if you could use Netflix? So it bothers us, right? So I think we need to put our regenerative implants out there. And we think, given time, like I actually mentioned, medtech, biotech needs time. We can be a very valuable regenerative medtech company. I think we got the technology and it works. And what keeps me and my team working 7 days a week is the impact that we know we're having. We make things better for our patients. They do it once, better quality of life, lower healthcare costs. Now, this is just a quick footprint snapshot of, we've got a lot of approvals everywhere. We're doing sales in every country, so, over time, adoption will grow. This is we got shareholders, so we always show this, revenues, revenues, and revenues. We have been listed for 3.5 years. A wonderful time to be listed and trying to commercialize the company. You heard it 10 times, 100 times. COVID, Ukraine war, Silicon Valley Bank, crypto crashing. We will not increase interest rates, and then interest rates goes up every month. But you can see, generally speaking, we do grow quarter on quarter organically, short of COVID, short of certain European regulatory transition. What's really ironic, I want to share, is that we got listed at the end of 2019, and our revenues for the entire year in 2019 was 411,000. Last quarter that we just reported, April to June, we did 587,000. So 411 for a year, almost 590 for 3 months. We had a market cap of above 100 million in 2019. We are now 10% of that, and that bothers us. We are a much better company now. We had all that videos since that time elapsed. So I think it's a huge, valuation arbitrage we are looking at this moment. What's our focus of 2024? We're going to keep growing revenues organically. That's our job, right? You see, we can grow quarter on quarter in a normal situation. We will grow inorganically through acquisitions, M&A, and because we are living in Europe and the US, we will go into China. We'll focus on cranial. That's our core. We got good traction with major US hospitals, so fingers crossed we'll get more numbers there. Aesthetics is a high discretionary spending business, very exciting. We've got a lot of traction in South Korea, which is the aesthetic capital of the world. If you know Koreans, every pretty girl you see, they don't look naturally like that. I think their noses, half of them come from us, so, Dental, we know many people with dental work done, high volume business, so we are chasing that as well. So we're trying to be smart in what applications we chase for. M&A, we just announced our first acquisition in March. We acquired our top distributor. Distributors are our turnkey solution. We sell $1 to distributor. We make 70% margin on that, 70. And distributor sells for $3-4. Now we got access to that $3-4. So it's a revenue and earnings accretive acquisition. And obviously we get a dynamite sales team that knows how to sell our products. China. We've got the China strategy, and you check our announcements, right? Don't just take my word for it. We're going to China in a systematic way, and you'll see us executing that. Blue sky, we're not just all bones. We're actually working hard to chase after the holy grail of tissue regeneration. We're going to speed up tissue regeneration. So what takes 12 months could be 6. What you don't know is we can grow tendons and cartilage, soft tissues, right? And that's head to toe, sports injuries, knee injuries, ACL, HTO. We could do all that, tendons. And we could obviously fix animals, right? Animals, dogs, cats, race horses. People treat their pets better than their loved ones. Don't take my word for it. Check all our announcements. We have tons of announcements showing that we're doing all the works with national agencies, science agencies, universities to speed up tissue regeneration. And we got lots of grants to support that sooner rather than later. So why Osteopore? I think in the regenerative medtech space, we are highly de-risked. You know, we got the technology, you've seen the world's first videos, good pedigree, results that works, regulatory approvals, huge opportunities globally, and we've got blue sky. So I thank you for listening to my prezzo. You know, I've got a booth outside. Come over, ask us questions. Tell me if you're missing some bones, we'll fix you up. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark. My wife, good. Mark, I was just interested, you were talking about Korea. We did a TV show in Korea a few years ago for the Nine Network, and I was amazed. All these beautiful hotels we stayed at, like this one, the Grand Hyatt, they have a floor completely dedicated to aesthetics. So people changing their appearance, like Mark was saying, and they don't care, they're just happy to do it. So there's a lot of people flying in from all over Asia into Korea who could be using things like this, especially in the noses and bits and pieces like that. I could have used it 3 times already. Arm, knee, bits and pieces between us all. We'd be great patients. Would you be investing in it? Yeah, I'd like to actually invest in having it done on my body. All right. Let's stay with biotech. We're going to focus on eyes for the next 15 minutes with Tom Spurling, who is come up these stairs, sir, the MD of Nova Eye Medical. Now, I actually spoke with Tom a couple of months ago on Stock Insiders, which is an investing show that I do with Stockhead. And when we had a chat, they had just been given approval by the FDA in the USA for new technology, which is changing, improving, and disrupting the traditional treatment methods for glaucoma. Any glaucoma people with challenges with glaucoma in the room at all? Or know of people? Yeah, it's a real bugger. And the traditional way that we're treating it, the traditional methods, frankly, aren't all that fantastic. This way, though, this is a game changer. I just sat there and our interview went for longer. You've only got 15 minutes once I finish speaking. But what was interesting was when Tom and I were chatting, they were about to present at a big conference in America that's held each year, so thousands of ophthalmologists. What do you think happened at that conference? Tom, you can let us know. Would you put your hands together for Tom, everyone?
Yes, thank you, Chrissy. We're talking about ophthalmology. We sell products to eye surgeons. In this case, our company, Nova Eye, there's a picture of the eye and our disclaimer. Our business has a couple of pieces. I'm here to talk about today glaucoma and our devices for treating the leading cause of blindness in the developed world. We have, there's company snapshot. Our share price has done pretty well compared with the rest of healthcare stocks over the last 6 months or so, a market cap of about 50 million as of today. We have a nice list of shareholders. Sorry, I should have added there. Australian Ethical Investments owns 19% of our company. Salter Brothers owns a good chunk too. So we have a nice mix of institutional holders who have supported us for a long time. The opportunity in glaucoma is a very, very big one. We're talking about surgical devices for treating glaucoma. We have a proprietary product portfolio with good IP coverage. We've recently released, as Chrissy mentioned, a new product in the United States. And we have we've recently, or back in March, did a capital raise to enable us to execute. We have our own sales force in the United States. We're very specific on the United States mostly today. We have our own sales force. We're not relying on any distributor or any agreement or anything. That work has been done, and we have those people on the ground in America ourselves. Glaucoma is a quickly disease overview. Glaucoma is very, very simply a failure of the plumbing in your eye. The body circulates liquid through the eye full of nutrients. If there are blockages in any of those pathways, pressure builds up, that pressure grows, it crushes the optic nerve, and you progressively lose vision from peripheral inwards. It's painless, and it's why when we go to the optometrist today, you will often get a little puff in your eye. That's a very, very crude, or not crude, it's a simple screening test for glaucoma, eye pressure. The typical treatment is a patient diagnosed with glaucoma will be given a course of drops. Those topical drops are the mainstay of glaucoma treatment. But while that may seem okay the first day you have been diagnosed, you are doomed to take those every day, maybe more than once a day for the rest of your life. Patient adherence to that is very, very low. It's well, not very low, it is not good. And so the idea around a minimally invasive surgical procedure to address the blockages in your system to enable the redo the flow to reduce the need for or eliminate the need for drops is the heart of our business. We're a key player, believe it or not, in the global market for minimally invasive glaucoma surgery. We're talking about very simple procedure, often done in conjunction with a cataract operation. A lot of people have glaucoma, it's a growing market. Here's a bit of detail on that market. Within the glaucoma market, drops are growing at a rate of, 4% a year with the aging population. But the idea in the green shot there shows that the surgery options are growing faster. And we're a leading company in the world and emerging in the field of clearing up those blockages and conducting those minimally invasive surgeries. It's a market that will continue to grow. Our business is based in Adelaide, our headquarters in Adelaide. I live in Adelaide. Most of our people are in America. We have a manufacturing facility in Fremont, California, and a sales team based out of there that roam around America selling to doctors. We also have a little manufacturing facility in Dunedin on the South Island of New Zealand, some sales team in Germany, and we use distributors in other markets. In particular, we have a good distributor in China where we sell. This product, this is our flag, our original iTrack catheter. We're talking about a catheter that you can see is inserted into the coloured part, the little canal that runs around the coloured part of your eye. That catheter clears, is inserted gently into that canal, is pushed around the canal, in this case, the doctor's doing it there with microforceps, and clears the canal. And as it is then gently withdrawn, and as it's withdrawn, a biocompatible hydraulic fluid is pumped in. So the two methods, we push the blockages away and then we remove the catheter and flush. It's angioplasty of the eye. Nothing is left behind. We have a gentle operation that rejuvenates the natural processes of the eye. That is the beauty of our device. You can see the doctor is using microforceps. That is a bit tedious. What's exciting about our company is the development and approval just in April, of a handpiece that enables the doctor to use his or her thumb or forefinger on that blue actuator at the top to just slide, just push that catheter through without having to use forceps. It makes the surgery, quite frankly, simpler to do, and in doing so, opens up the number of surgeons willing to take on this product. There's another shot, and it gives you a size. It's a pencil-like size. That catheter, we push the actuator, and the catheter pops out the end of that cannula or needle. Tosin Smith in Texas, Dr. Tosin Smith, doing the surgery. It's done under a microscope. These are all pretty small. This is the essence of what we're doing. With that existing catheter, with we like to say, well, wet, slippery noodle, the microforceps, maybe 200 surgeons in the United States were regularly buying it. That's not maybe, they were. With the introduction of that handpiece, we are now progressively accessing a much larger pool of doctors who are willing to take on the device because it's just, as I said, going to be easier to do. So our friend Dr. Lubeck in Chicago was explaining how this will make canaloplasty, which is canal, the canal of Schlem that runs there, same as angioplasty, more accessible to a much broader number of patients. Our outlook has been, this was written a couple of months ago, our outlook is strong, having put that device into the market in April. We reported yesterday that our sales grew 32% compared with the same, from the period May, June, July, the first 3 months of us launching that new catheter in the market. We have successfully got hold of our first tranche of new people and increased usage, and our growth has been 32% in the United States, which we think is fantastic. One of the companies in the space put out a note overnight, I just checked, and the growth over the same period for that company was only 4%. So we see ourselves taking market share, and that's an exciting aspect and why we raised our capital, what we promised to our shareholders, and what we're now delivering. So we're looking forward to continuing to provide that growth, that the 32% we put up today. The revenue of our business right now, having announced that growth in the US, is probably a run rate of about $13 million US. And we can see that will continue to grow over the coming 12 months. We're excited about it. And that is our story. Chrissy, thank you.
Thank you very much. I love this story. I think it's really interesting, just as a story to come and listen to today, but you can see the implications of it as well. And ever since I've chatted to Tom, I find myself going to doctor's surgeries and going, do you know there's a new treatment for glaucoma? And we've done it here in Australia. We've pioneered it here in Australia. Can you tell people about it? So I'd love for all of you to go out and tell your GPs about it as well, because the more people that know about it, the better. And then if you invest in it, the better as well. It's got that little, flow-on effect. Tom's pretty happy with that as well. Now, Jaxon mentioned AFL, his beloved AFL, at the start of the day. And that has a reference to the discussion we're about to have now with this fellow here, because I was reading with interest, I think back in March, there was a class action that's been brought against the AFL for chronic traumatic head injury. I was looking at payouts in America in the billions of dollars for NFL players, chronic traumatic head injury. And if, like me, you've ever played sport before and you had a knocked head and had to sit off, I can remember coaches saying to me, get back out, the team needs you. There's no real, you've had a bit of a knock to the head. This fellow here works in sport for his entire life. He's had a lot of experience with Olympians and all sorts of elite athletes, but he also understands completely the impact that a head injury can have on you and I, the weekend warrior. And he's gone about developing some tech that is going to hopefully get rid of the need for a class action and prevent people from ever having to suffer the type of chronic traumatic head injuries that our sports stars are making a big fuss about at the moment, and rightly so. His name is Michael Vegar. He is the co-founder and the MD of HITIQ. Would you please make him very welcome?
Thank you. Very excited to introduce you all to HITIQ today. We are the global leader in concussion and brain health technologies, and we work with a lot of the major sporting codes around the world in helping them address what is arguably the biggest issue they face today, which is brain trauma in sports. I'm going to share some vision with you now, and forgive me, but it's quite lengthy, but I think it's important to absorb the entirety of the vision to really contextualise the significance of the issue that we're dealing with, and I think it will also help contextualise the remainder of the presentation as well. So what we're looking for here is the fellow in the red hair, with the red hair and the green jersey. Thanks, Shane.
Tarpany and the Broncos, and Curtis Sirrett in the last couple of seasons. He's a real, and he's got the job replacing. He's a positive. We've got going back. He looks up and he sees. Oh!
Slipping over out there. Big shot. Horsburgh out.
Williams. There's Horsburgh.
The arms. Tin them.
They left the bus really that well, so great start, I thought.
All right. Here's Horsburgh.
Fanua Blake around that. Both these teams acknowledge Thompson.
Well, they were going nowhere then. Poor discipline.
Nah. Runs into horse. Personality of your coach.
20 minutes into the game, he hasn't really had to another player. Well, Brandon Elliott, he's just got twisted up in a tackle there. Cool, tough call.
Blake this time.
Just stay in the ruck, just keep it there.
Beanie's selected IGA stores and it
Does that really matter? I don't think it matters. That's an old rule. They want this. And the next bloke will want.
Here goes Horsburgh. Saka. Herculean effort.
We're down to 6.
To Levi, there's Kempy again. He had a juggle, but he kept it and he got up.
He'll zip over a jump.
The Manly fans, you've got it won now. Go, Jake.
Okay, so what did you just watch? That was a data file that we collected on one of the thousands of athletes that we track around the world. 49 brain traumas in one game, varying in scale. Some of those really significant, some of them quite innocuous. But let's extrapolate that out over the hundreds of thousands of athletes that take the field every weekend in Australia and the millions around the world, and we've got a significant issue. And what does it mean? Well, the truth is we don't really know. What is the answer? The answer is data, and that's where HITIQ is going to play a central role in solving this issue. Just a bit about the company. Ticker code HITQ, capped at approximately $6 million. We are supported and led by a world-class scientific and medical advisory council. Everything that you see today is underpinned by scientific rigour and led by this group of world-class individuals. So what's our strategy? So we exist to preserve the brain health of athletes, quite simply, but what is very complex is brain trauma. And we've developed a 3-pillar strategy that we think is going to be the winning formula in the market, and that's really centred around 3 key areas of the care model. So the first and most critical area that we think needs to be addressed is being able to quantify head impacts, as you just saw in that data file. Being able to bring data to the table is the first and foremost area of attention that the codes need to put resource and investment into. And we are achieving that through an instrumented mouthguard that I'll talk about shortly. Secondly, it's through an assessment platform that we have acquired out of New Zealand in 2021, which records and stores standardised concussion data. And lastly, diagnosis. So being able to define concussion and brain impairment. So what we do know is that it's not going to be one piece of data. It's not going to be one product or one piece of technology. It's going to be a collective of data points through different technologies, both primarily objective, but also qualitative. And that's all constitutes what we've built here through our end-to-end platform. So what is CTE? So there's obviously a lot of media around CTE. There's an emergence of this issue with ex-players being diagnosed with CTE or probable CTE. What is it? Well, it's neurodegeneration. It presents as dementia-like disease. But how does it occur? And that's where the focus on repeat head trauma really comes into play. There's some emerging research now that suggests for every 1,000 head impact exposures, the risk of CTE increased by 20%. So if we do the mathematics on the individual that we just seen in that video, year on year, he's going to have a 20% increase of his risk of CTE, which is quite scary, but also that's the opportunity, and that's where we come into play by being able to bring really objective, sensitive, reliable data to the table. Very strong thematic. There's been a Senate inquiry ongoing in the last few months, being led by the Australian government. That is going to be a near-term catalyst For us, in particular, for the space, it's going to drive the acceleration and the adoption of new technologies, new approaches to the problem. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on sporting codes and the governing bodies around the world, but particularly here in Australia. And most importantly, through the testimony that was given in the inquiry, the chief medical officers of the codes, for the first time, publicly acknowledged the link between repeat head trauma and CTE. And that's never been publicly acknowledged until now. So that the codes are going to act swiftly. They're going to have to. The litany of legal cases that are emerging or ongoing are significant, both in the US, Europe, and also here in Australia across the AFL and NRL populations. So there's some significant tailwinds really supporting our endeavours. So from a product standpoint, how are we solving this issue? So tool of trade already exists, instrumented with some of the most sophisticated technology, capturing 15,000 data points a second. What we're able to capture is magnitude of impact, so both the linear and the rotational forces that are exposed to the brain, the location of impacts, the direction of impacts, and we can do that through the algorithms that we've developed. Now, all of those different metrics are very important to capture in being able to profile and quantify head impact exposure. Our technology has been independently third-party validated on a number of occasions, and we have the world-leading database of head impacts that we've captured over the last 7 years. And I think important to note in this product category is the barrier to entry is extremely high. So the technology development is a feat in itself, more so as a data collection. And we've been in the market now for 7 years collecting data and really refining our algorithms. And we operate now to a 98% sensitivity and accuracy level, which is class leading. So we're really proud of the tech. It's going to be the cornerstone of any care model in the future. It's going to converge on a pathway to what we believe will be a mandate of this technology. And we are leading the charge on that front. The second technology that we have in our suite is a product called Connect. We acquired a business out of New Zealand in 2021, and it goes to my point on the open was qualitative data will still have a place in the overall care model, and I think having a standardised, digitalised concussion platform is going to be a really important aspect of that model. And the company that we acquired was called CSX, had over 100,000 concussion assessments in the database. It's now grown to over 130,000. And it's and what that delivered to us is not only an extension into the care model, so now we can quantify head impacts, and now we've got a standardised assessment technology attached to that, but also gave us an avenue into the community. So what we found through our work in the community is that nobody knows how to treat a concussion. And the disparity of care when a child gets a concussion when they go to a GP is wild. And ultimately, that is where the opportunity lies for a platform such as Connect, where we're able to deliver accessible concussion care regardless of geographical location and standardise that care and deliver a really high level of care for that individual. And we're doing that through a telehealth partnership with a company called Doctor Telehealth out of Queensland. So what we're promising is concussion care within 24 hours, so expedited care, but also standardised care, so that stakeholders can be guaranteed that they're going to be getting the same level of care no matter where they are in Australia and globally as we expand this into the US and the UK. And this will become the highest standard of care. And I'll close off on this product. In one of the major themes that emerged through the Senate inquiry was there's no data, not only from impact data, but also from the prevalence of the injury. So the CMOs were quizzed around what's the prevalence of the injury, and nobody had a great answer because there is no platform, point of care platform that's able to retrieve and consolidate all of the information around concussion injury and the qualitative data around that. So there's a significant opportunity with this in terms of how it's going to plug into our overall platform. When diagnosed with a concussion, there is an arbitrary yes-no diagnosis, and that's not good enough. And when we talk about, well, what's the solution? ultimately what we want to be able to do is provide interventions and rehabilitation protocols, right? Like any other injury. But we're not going to be able to do that if we can't define the impairment. So we've looked at the market, and we've assessed the opportunity, and where we see from an assessment and diagnostic perspective where it's going is through virtual reality, and having a tool that's able to assess all domains of brain function through a virtual reality environment, through proprietary games that we've developed, we think is going to provide significant opportunity for the business. And where we're at with it now is we're in preclinical trials with this technology. We've collected over 500 data on 500 participants, and effectively where the differentiator in this product in particular is around, you will see a lot of media around 30-second eye tracking tests, or a 2-minute oculomotor test. Not all concussions present with a single symptomology, and what this technology does here is it comprehensively assesses the whole brain, and what we're able to do is define impairment, and ultimately this is going to lead to more positive rehabilitative interventions. So thank you. And so we're really excited by where this is going, and we expect to be entering into some sort of clinical trial within the next 12 months on this. And the FDA, we've identified a predicate. The data that we've collected thus far is tracking positively in tune to that predicate. Just quickly, the products and the technology are class leading, but what really sets us apart in the market and is going to underpin the commercial success of this business is the data. And we have the deepest and the broadest data set in the world. And we've collected close to 500,000 head impacts around the globe across multiple sports. We've got 130,000 concussion assessments within our database. So that's positioning us really strongly for a strong push into market in the next 12 months. In the US is our key market. We've partnered with a number of collegiate football programs. We've got a significant data set there. We've built some really strong foundations in that market. And we've also partnered in the US with a company called Shock Doctor, who are the preeminent mouthguard manufacturer in the world. They manufacture close to 10 million units of mouthguards per year, and have exposure to over 20,000 retail locations. We are in the late stages of building a prototype over-the-counter retail product with them, and effectively the marriage allows them to take the manufacturing and the distribution load, with us being the technology and the data provider. So that's a really exciting opportunity for us in that partnership, not only in terms of giving us access to retail, but our penetration globally into the consumer market with this technology. We think this is an $8 billion addressable market across these 3 key pillars. We have representation in all of the key markets already at varying levels. We've got some really good exposure in some sports. We've just emerging into some others. But most importantly, we do have a presence across all of our key target markets. So the foundations are in place to really attack, and it's a greenfields opportunity here. And just finally, CTE, brain trauma, sports cannot be denied anymore. There's an escalating need for codes to oblige to their duty of care to their athletes. So we are going to see the acceleration of technology. There's a strong tailwinds. The thematics is there, and we are prime position in the global data leadership position to take advantage of those tailwinds. So, and I'll just close off on that because you were giving me the stare. So I appreciate everybody's time, and thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely amazing, isn't it? Hey, we've got a couple of things coming up that I thought I'd point out to you. One of them is a tech stock which is actually paying a dividend. Would you like that? So we're talking to a tech stock that's paying a dividend in a little while, also rising to the challenge of preserving the health of the globe. Before that, though, we're going to our guts. Gut health is next. Do you know if any of you are ever on TikTok? There's actually hashtag gut health. If you look at them, some of those have got views of 3.7 billion people. So you type in the word gut health and 3.7 billion people are viewing products to do with this. It's really become a buzzword, but if you talk to experts and listen to experts, they will tell you it's far more than a buzzword because it's a really important aspect of health. It impacts everything from obesity to cancer rates, and we've all heard it, of course, in regards to our mental health as well, which is really, really important. So one of the extraordinary bits of tech, which is in this field driving solutions, is Microba. They're driving the development of new health solutions. And to tell us how that could be of interest to both our investment portfolios and to us in general, would you please welcome this amazing human being, Dr. Reid, who is the CEO of Microba Life Sciences.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that kind introduction. Very pleased to be here again to tell you about our company, Microba Life Sciences. It'll be about 2 or 3 hours, depending on how much of an early riser everyone is in the room, since you had your breakfast. And I want you to think for a moment about where that food is going within your body. It's traveling through your digestive tract, ultimately where it will reach your large intestine, where it will collide with trillions of microorganisms that produce a vast array of bioactive metabolites that act both locally in the gut, but systemically throughout the body. And we now know that those organisms and molecules are absolutely essential for maintaining good health, but are also critical in a range of chronic disease settings. So at Microba, our investment thesis is that those trillions of organisms, known as your gut microbiome, represent one of the biggest untapped opportunities to improve human health. That's going to see testing of those microorganisms become routine in healthcare, and ultimately the development of novel drugs from those organisms and their biology be brought to market. And we have the world-leading technology in the world to unlock those two opportunities. Over the past 5 years, we've been executing to establish a global dominant position in both testing of the microbiome and in therapeutic development from those organisms to capture those two opportunities. And our business model is outlined here to capture that. We deliver testing services now globally to clinicians, consumers, and research clients, together with market-leading distribution partners. Those services now, for a number of years, have been building this large proprietary data bank through consented and de-identified customer data. And then we've been mining that to discover novel therapeutics and progress them into human clinical trials, ultimately to execute out-licensing transactions on those assets. At its core, Microba is a data-driven biotech company, but we are commercial stage and already delivering global revenues now from our testing services. We have strong year-on-year growth. We've assembled an array of world-leading partners on both the testing and therapeutic side of our business. That data bank that we've developed has become a globally unique asset, which is making it the most valuable of its kind. And from that data bank, we've now established 3 therapeutic programs with a lead candidate now progressed into a phase 1 first-in-human clinical trial for inflammatory bowel disease. And underpinning all of this, and one thing that I'm very proud of, is we've built a truly world-class team to make all this a reality, including Deputy Chair and Chair of our Medical Advisory Board, Professor Ian Fraser, one of Australia's most distinguished clinical scientists, but also the inventor of Gardasil, the cervical cancer vaccine, which now generates over $7 billion in revenue for Merck. We also brought on last year a head of therapeutics to drive our drug candidates into clinical development from Amgen in California. So a really fantastic skill set to unlock this global opportunity. But I want to address up front, we've had a really significant last quarter and half in the financial year just closed. At the end of last calendar year, just in December gone, we entered into a major strategic partnership with Sonic Healthcare, second largest healthcare company in Australia, one of the world's largest medical diagnostic companies. They took a strategic shareholding in Microba of 20%, and they also became a major partner. We laid down the foundation for distributing our testing across their 7 major markets. And last month, we just signed the first agreement to take our technology Australia-wide with Sonic Healthcare. Aligned to this, we've also had a partnership for a number of years now with Europe's largest pathology company, Synlab. And just last quarter, we signed Brazil, opening up South America to Microba for the first time, adding to another 6 countries that we just recently signed with them. We also just a quarter and a half ago, released a new testing product that we've been designing for a number of years together with leading healthcare professionals, directed towards complex chronic gastrointestinal disorders. And we've seen really strong uptake from that in market. We saw 87% growth between March and June of practitioners prescribing and patients using that testing. We saw 480% growth of new healthcare practitioners becoming educated and using the testing, registering for an account so that they can refer the testing to their patients. And finally, as I mentioned before, we've matured now into a clinical stage drug development company. We've taken a lead drug candidate all the way from discovery in our large data set through to a drug product that can be orally consumed, and it's now been dosed to a first-in-human clinical trial, and that trial is due to read out in December this year. So firstly, I'm going to take you through our testing services, and then I'll switch gears to talk about our therapeutics. But here it is. Here's the test. And just to give you an idea of what that testing experience is, there's a small swab. We're talking about a dab onto a piece of toilet paper because we're talking about the organisms in your gut. That goes back to a laboratory. It's processed. We use our core technology to comprehensively assess that community of microorganisms to say who's there, what they're capable of doing, and how that impacts your health, and how that varies from healthy reference ranges. And then we equip your healthcare professional with the information to be able to move out of range biomarker results into range through targeted dietary modification, targeted supplementation, and targeted antimicrobial treatment. Us and our partners believe that this testing, because of the importance of these organisms in your health and in chronic disease, is going to become as routine as a blood test, and that's what we're unlocking. And to do that, we've assembled a bench of world-leading partners to take this technology global. Sonic Healthcare, major partner of Microba, and have a strong position across 7 major markets globally. SynLab, which I mentioned before, Europe's largest pathology company, giving us broad access to Europe and Latin America. Genova Diagnostics, the leading gastrointestinal pathology provider in North America. And G42 Healthcare, covering the Middle East. Those partners provide us with access into 35 countries. And just as we closed out the financial year, we've now operationalized 13 of those countries. So significant growth ahead as we continue to unlock that global opportunity at the forefront of this microbiome testing space. Just to give you a snapshot of that growth profile, our view at the beginning of the financial year just closed was that we would go from coming out of COVID, 4 countries operational to 8 countries operational. We significantly exceeded that with 13, and we're excited about the growth profile of that testing business, both domestically and internationally. As we closed out the financial year, we generated $5.4 million in revenue, and a lot of that came in the second half of the financial year as we had launched that new healthcare testing product into market and started to activate and achieve first sales in these new countries. So excited about the growth profile into FY24. So that's our testing services generating revenue here domestically and internationally. But in addition to those revenues, those testing services generate this valuable data, which gives us a unique insight into the differences between healthy individuals and people with different states of chronic disease with respect to their microbiome. This part of our business has really matured since our ASX listing last year. We are demonstrating novel biology with strong preclinical safety profile, and have now demonstrated the ability to scale manufacturing of these drug candidates and produce drug products that can be consumed orally. We've built a really incredible multidisciplinary team, an international team, to take these products through preclinical and clinical development. And we've assembled a range of wonderful partners to be able to take those development efforts forward. But the heart of this is what we call our data-driven drug discovery platform, starting with that large proprietary data bank, where we've defined internationally a clinically healthy cohort, and then we can define specific disease populations. We then apply a range of advanced biostatistics and artificial intelligence methods to find what one of our co-founders calls the needles in the haystack. What are the key organisms and associated biology that represent therapeutic opportunity. We then isolate those organisms in the laboratory. Most of those have never been even identified or brought into pure culture in the laboratory before. Actually, 70% of the microbiome has never been brought into the laboratory and studied. And we then take those organisms through a range of preclinical experiments and gold standard animal models in different chronic disease settings, and then look to bring them into human clinical trials. And that's exactly where we are today with our lead candidate in our inflammatory bowel disease program. So we have 3 programs spanning inflammatory bowel disease, cancer immunotherapy, and autoimmune disease. The inflammatory bowel disease, as I said before, due to read out from that phase 1 clinical trial in December, moving very, very quickly. Our second program is in cancer immunotherapy. One of the breakthroughs in cancer care, and you'll hear more about that from other companies today, has been the application of immunotherapy drugs, and in particular a class of drugs called immune checkpoint inhibitors. Incredible drugs, but they only work in around 30 to 40% of patients. One of the key differences between people that respond and don't respond is their microbiome. And we believe that we have identified the basis of that and have demonstrated in preclinical models that we can increase response to those immune checkpoint inhibitor drugs. Significant opportunity. And finally, we've got a discovery program in partnership with New York Stock Exchange listed Ginkgo Bioworks, who are also a cornerstone strategic investor in our IPO last year. Really interesting program due to complete discovery before the end of the financial year. Our business model here on our therapeutic side is not to be a late-stage drug developer. We've got a genuine platform for drug discovery from the microbiome. We're moving quickly. We see our role as doing preclinical and early clinical de-risking and then out-licensing to big pharma partners that are strategically aligned. And there's a range of deal precedents that we can look to that range from $500 million now up to $11 billion in transaction value. The most recent of those was from a phase 2 readout from Prometheus Biosciences with a novel inflammatory bowel disease asset, where they were acquired very rapidly by Merck following that data readout. So we're excited about the opportunity there for these novel therapies that are demonstrating really, really compelling biology. So finally, to round out, we've had a really big last quarter, delivering on a range of key milestones and value inflection points for shareholders. And we've got a big 6 months ahead, both on the testing services and on our therapeutic development side of the business. We are, as I said before, commercial stage, already delivering global revenues on a strong growth trajectory, and we're very well funded. We have over $32 million in the bank, so well positioned and in a strong position to continue to drive our growth profile on testing and progress those therapeutics towards those strategic out-licensing transactions. So I unfortunately won't be able to hang around for the rest of the day, but I'm going to leave some materials out for everyone. And if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in contact. But very much appreciate your time and attention and excited about what we're building at Microba. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Luke. Appreciate that. You're lucky you're not sticking around here. Take this little bit here. There you go. Isn't that an interesting conversation to have? That's really, really interesting, that one. When I saw him outside in the corridor today, I immediately thought, what did I have for breakfast? What did I have for breakfast? Is he going to judge me? You can go that way, Greg, if you like. Just be careful. All concern, no responsibility, though, if you fall over. Right, we're going to go from saving the body to saving your planet next up here on stage. The United Nations has pretty much warned us that humanity's in the hot seat. July was Earth's hottest month on recorded history. 21 of the Earth's hottest recorded days were in July this year. So we need some solutions. We need them pretty fast. Enter our next player here on the stage today, Hazer. Have any of you actually been watching their stock in the last week or so and seeing what they're doing? So they issued some securities, didn't they? And you would have thought maybe they would have gone, but they didn't. They're very constant. They didn't need the DFIB. They were fine. They've kept going. Which is, so whatever it is that they're doing to address this issue that the world is facing has got legs. What is it? This is the man that's going to tell us. This is Glenn Corrie. He is their Managing Director and CEO. Please make him very welcome.
Thanks, Christina. Great, thank you. Yep, from saving the body to saving the planet. Look, no questions, climate change poses a serious threat to the planet, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. I was reminded of it as early as a few weeks ago in Greece with my family on the hottest day ever recorded, at least in that region. So it's a serious threat, and Hazer is developing a serious solution to that. And effectively, we have developed a low-cost, low-emissions hydrogen production technology that is very well positioned to play a leading role in global decarbonisation ahead of the pack, so we can provide an immediate solution today to accelerate the hydrogen economy. There's 8 pillars to broadly our story. We're a low-cost, low-emissions proprietary technology. We've been at this now for a number of years. We're one technology that serves 3 really important markets, and I'll talk to that very shortly. Being low on the cost curve drives high margins and compelling economics for plant owners, as well as attractive returns. We are rapidly expanding our footprint globally. We have struck up some really attractive partnerships with tier 1 industrial groups that are looking for a decarbonisation solution in the steelmaking sector and other really important sectors that have got serious carbon emission challenges. We're a very advanced technology. We are effectively TRL 7 today on the NASA technology readiness scale, so advanced. We've been at this 15 years. We have got proven scale up, and I'll talk to that very shortly. We've got a very clear pathway to commercialization. We're a CapEx light model, very importantly. We're leveraging the fact that we're a licenser of the technology as opposed to being owners of plants. And that drives, of course, early free cash flow as we effectively collect royalties and license fees and let others effectively develop the technology through their capital spend. 2 sides to our story. We've got the hydrogen as well as supercritical mineral in graphite, which is diversifying our earnings base. So 2 really important hard markets that we effectively tap into. We're in the tailwinds of the rapidly expanding hydrogen market, which is growing at 6% per annum at the moment. And of course, we're in the sweet spot of the energy transition, which has meant that there's a lot of government support and policy support. And if you turn the clock back 3 or 4 years, there was 3 countries in the world that had national hydrogen strategies. Today, there's over 30. So you can see the momentum that the industry is building at this stage. So what do? In terms of our technology, we essentially take methane as our feedstock. So methane, for those who don't know, is mostly natural gas and LNG, or liquefied natural gas. It's 25 times more harmful than CO2. So it's a serious problem for the planet. We effectively pass it through a reactor, and at 800 to 900 degrees, we simply split methane into its raw elements of pure and clean hydrogen and graphite, okay? Now, the X factors for the technology is that we use iron ore, which is readily available and cheap, as a catalyst, and it does 2 things for us. It dramatically reduces the temperature of our reactor. Everyone else doing this is doing this at 3,000 degrees Celsius and above, okay? So naturally, that's going to bring down our operating costs substantially, and that really positions us low on the cost curve as a serious competitor here. The second thing it does is it gives rise to graphitic carbon and a graphite of up to 95% purity, which against the competition, they have carbon black, which is amorphous and unstructured in its nature, and we have graphite, which has got a broad application worldwide. Okay, so 1 technology, 3 really important markets: the hydrogen market, the graphite market, and of course, the importantly decarbonisation market, where a lot of industrial players are trying to effectively reduce carbon emissions in their portfolio. Just to reiterate our cost and our positioning in effectively the playing field, this is a chart of carbon intensity. Up here is bad, down here is low, and this is cost. Of course, lower cost versus higher cost. There's 3 ways today of producing hydrogen. Electrolysis, commonly referred to as green hydrogen, very high cost. Why? Because it is 7 times harder to split the water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen than it is to do the same with natural gas or methane. Okay, so that's naturally going to be 7 times more energy intensive to effectively produce hydrogen, which is why it's high cost. And of course, with that energy, you need a lot of power, and that's high emissions, okay? Without renewables, it's not really going to be a viable economic technology in terms of effectively their ability to compete on the cost curve. The better comparison is with steam methane reforming, which is 100%, almost 100% of the market today. And I'll show you the market shortly. Steam methane reforming is again using methane as a feedstock, but for every kilogram of hydrogen that is produced with steam methane reformation, there is 11 kilograms of CO2. So it's not a climate solution, it's a climate problem. And that's the immediately disruptable market that we're participating in, replacing steam methane reforming, because we have the same feedstock in natural gas. Instead of a carbon dioxide byproduct, we have a graphite, a supercritical mineral, as a co-product. Okay, so well positioned on this chart in terms of cost and carbon intensity. We're a plug-in technology. We effectively produce hydrogen at the demand center for customers. Okay, so imagine a refinery or a petrochemical plant or an LNG facility, a power generation facility that requires hydrogen today. We effectively will plug into that infrastructure. Okay, so that eliminates any requirement for transporting hydrogen, which is not readily available today, and all the risk and the cost that comes with that. So again, just reiterates kind of the competitive position that we have in the market. And we're rapidly developing our footprint worldwide. Okay, so whilst we're coming up the technology curve, very advanced, we have customers that are demanding our technology. Okay, they're very serious customers that are serious about their carbon dioxide and their emissions problem. We've teamed up with Fortis in North America, one of the Alinta of Canada, basically, looking to decarbonize their pipeline network. In Europe, we have teamed up with, again, a very large gas distribution company called Engie, where we're going to provide hydrogen to either power generation, blending in pipeline network, or even mobility. And importantly, in Asia, we have teamed up with the world's largest LNG importer, Chubu Electric, which imports up to 15% of the world's LNG, to develop a project to decarbonize power generation in Nagoya in Japan. So first mover advantage in really key markets that are looking to decarbonize: North America, Europe, and in Asia. Next one. So there's a bit more color on the projects that we've got. We are expecting all of these projects to be online by the end of this decade. So, you know, again, when we think about our revenue model, these are going to be really important projects for us as we leverage that technology, and we leverage our low-cost model in terms of our license fees and royalty receipts. Okay. We're very advanced technology, as I said. So we've been on this journey now for 15 years. We started in the lab in 2007. We have gradually scaled this up very successfully to our commercial demonstration plant, which is in Perth, in metropolitan Perth in Western Australia. It has scaled up actually very well. As we've got larger, it's got easier to procure equipment and materials and other things. And we bring this project online this year. So a very important milestone for us. The objective of the CDP, or the commercial demonstration plant, is to demonstrate our technology at commercial scale on a continuous basis. It'll be the first time we do it, and an important and pivotal milestone for the company as we go into the commercialization of our technology. A brief word on the CDP. We put out an announcement on Monday. We're on track to deliver this year. We've got 2 of our critical pieces of equipment just arrived in Australia. They're currently undergoing final assembly, and they'll be delivered to site for installation, and we'd expect to be commissioning this plant latter part of this quarter, early part of Q4. So again, watch out for that. CapEx-light business model, I referred to this a number of times already. This effectively enables us access to early free cash flow. We've spent $70 million developing this technology in the last 15 years. We're over the hill in terms of what's required in terms of large-scale capital to develop the tech. We will leverage now the advanced nature of the technology and the licensing model that we've developed to effectively commercialize. So one technology, 2 very important markets, a combination of license fees and royalties on those 3 really important product streams, if you like, the hydrogen side, the graphite side, as well as the decarbonization or the carbon offset market, which is equally important in the world today. A brief word on graphite. We've got a really versatile, unique product that is attracting a lot of attention. We have managed to secure a partnership with Mitsui, one of the world's largest traders in coking coal. They see real benefit in our graphite, a synthetic graphite, and mind you, most of the graphite supply today is coming out of China. In fact, I think 100% of, or close to 100% of the synthetic graphite market comes out of China. So we offer a really unique alternative to the graphite market. Mitsui has picked it up. Some of the early work that's coming out of this is very exciting, in particular steel making as a replacement for coking coal. To remind you that steel making today is over 10% of the global CO2 emissions. So it's something that we're really excited about in our ability to provide not just hydrogen to steel making, but also a graphite, which is a low emissions product to help the Green Steel Initiative. The hydrogen market is actually quite large. Today, it's 95 million tonnes per annum. To put that into context for people, the LNG market today is almost 400 million tonnes. So call it a quarter going to a third of the total LNG market. Now, in terms of value, it's valued at $175 billion. The LNG market was valued at $150 billion. So it's actually more valuable than the LNG market, but a quarter of the size, okay? But the growth is immense. So everywhere you look at the moment, most countries are looking to bring hydrogen to a greater part of the energy mix, power generation, in what we call hard to abate sectors that are looking to decarbonize, things you can't just plug into the wall and electrify. So petrochemicals in particular, refining for desulfurization, power generation, ammonia, methanol production, even mobility. So the market generally is on a trajectory up, growing currently at 6% per annum, but on target for 500 to 600 million tonnes by 2050 as countries decarbonise. 2 minutes, right? We're almost there, Christina. I talked about fiscal policy. Again, wind back the clock to 2019, Korea, Japan, and maybe one other country had a hydrogen strategy. Today, we've got 30 countries, over 30, that have got national hydrogen strategies. I want to call out a couple here. Australia, we have been the beneficiary of ARENA funding for our CDP, which has been fantastic. There is a Hydrogen Head Start program now that's committed $2 billion to hydrogen technologies and projects, and we hope to be able to tap into that as we develop our commercialisation, not just in Australia, but overseas. And the other one that I wanted to mention was in the US, they have the Inflation Reduction Act, which effectively offers technology groups in this space a tax credit and subsidy of up to $3 a kilogram. Now, we're already on the low end of the cost curve, but we'll take every dollar we can get because we are a very competitively positioned technology, and the US is a very attractive market for us and one that we're exploring actively at the moment. We got a massive 12 months ahead. The CDP is coming online. We've got great confidence around that now that we've got most of the de-risking done in the schedule. So it's a really important leverage for us into the new commercial projects that we've got. We are on track with our projects in Japan, France, and we've got an FID emerging on our project in Canada. More news on the Mitsui and the graphite front, which I'm really excited about, in particular steel making and other sectors that we're working on. And just for your reference, we are one of the only publicly listed hydrogen technology companies in the world, okay? So if you're looking for a low-cost proxy to this sector, then we're a fantastic opportunity to get yourself involved in. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Corrie. Right, Eddie Wester, just jump, leap, go on.
No, I won't do that.
That's it. We've got this other set of stairs, but it's kind of straight into my desk, which makes it a bit tricky to get up onto the stage. So are there any West Aussies in the room besides myself and Shane up the back? Any of you? Oh, really? God, we've had no imports over here. Well, if you were back in Western Australia in the 80s, you would have known one little store called Cash Converters. No, you heard of Cash Converters? Cashies, we used to call it back then. Fast forward 40 years, that one little store has gone global. And thanks to the tech world, it's supercharged, the perception of it has changed. And I think a big part of that is the tech world, because what they've done is they've strategically wrapped emerging technology around the business, and they've done it really aggressively, and it's had a huge change. Did anyone go to perhaps Paris for holidays this year? Anyone go overseas to Paris? You would have found a cashies there, that's right. So the other interesting thing is too that fast forward 40 years, they're presenting at one of the leading tech investing platform investment conferences. They've got a $150 million market cap and they're paying a dividend. Who wouldn't like that? This fellow's going to tell us more about it. He went for a couple of years, 10 odd years ago, and he's still there and he's loving it. Let's find out why and why you should love having it as part of your portfolio. This is Sam Budiselik, correct? Sam Budiselik. Would you please welcome him, everyone?
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to talk about our company, Cash Converters. A number of you may know the business. We've invested significantly over recent years building out our technology platform, not only customer facing, but a data-driven business now, and building some pretty leading edge credit risk models and data science approach in Perth and Brisbane. The business model originally was one of a buy-sell model, and it's expanded now to focus on personal finance and lending to our customers. The actual model is quite unique. Under a store roof, we've got the three business lines operating with a lot of crossover. When you walk into a store, it's generally to solve a cash need, we think, with our customer base, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But you've got an opportunity to sell your inventory or item to us that we procure to then sell as inventory to a customer. And as I say, you can also use items of collateral for loans, or you can take an unsecured loan all under the one roof of our stores. The circular economy term is quite prevalent in Europe, and not procuring any of our inventory through warehousing or wholesale procurement. It does lend to a unique model where any store you go into across the country, you will find something different, and it provides a challenge for just generating inventory, unique inventory. But we feel with 150 stores in Australia and 700 globally, we've solved that challenge, and now we're really focused on extending our technology to reach more customers. We have been around for a long time. We do have a strong balance sheet. We've been operating for nearly 40 years. We've got about 60 mil of cash on the balance sheet, and it puts us in a good position to consider strategic opportunities I'll talk about. But half of our network in Australia is franchised still, and we see that as an opportunity going forward, as is new product development and reaching new customer segments. Our global network is 700 stores. I think our core focus has really been Australia. That's where, a couple of years ago, 95% of our earnings was coming from. Half the network is franchised of our 154 stores. So we work in partnership with our franchise partners operating the Australian model. Over time, we've expanded to have equity ownerships in some of our international operations. Close to home, New Zealand makes strategic sense for us culturally, and from a management span of control, it fits in quite nicely to our business. And again, half and half franchised and corporate there, and we own that operation and operate as a master franchisor in the yellow boxes or circles, sorry. Same in the UK. We've just recently made an acquisition of our largest franchise group in the UK, 42 stores, and we operate 146 franchise stores as the master franchisor. The rest of the world, we partner with master partners and take a royalty for that provision of technology and IP and trademark. Just to try and outline our business model, which, as I touched on, under a store roof, there is a lot going on, but predominantly we look after a section of the community that is largely excluded from accessing financial services. This is primarily due to our customers either having a thin credit file, no credit file, or some markers on their bank statements that prevent them from having access to a mainstream service provider. Now, we do sit under the National Credit Act. We are regulated by ASIC and AUSTRAC, and we have responsible lending obligations like the banks. So as a customer comes into our business and presents, if we're thinking about extending an unsecured personal loan to help that person get back on their feet or to meet a need, and then to start to build that credit profile over time that will allow them to access lower cost, longer term options, we've really had to deploy technology to essentially build a credit profile of that borrower that a well-known credit bureau would do for a prime market. Traditionally, people have entered our business through a small loan product. That's traditionally been referred to as a payday loan, but under the legislation, it's called a small amount credit contract, or a SAC. And it actually has a lot of very sensible protections built into the Credit Act that cap pricing, cap fees, cap the cost of credit, and provide a whole range of protections for the consumer. A presumption of unsuitability really exists for that loan. When someone comes in, we have to satisfy ourselves that not only is the loan going to be repaid, but is that loan good for the consumer? And as over time people build their credit profile with us, we can then offer them longer term and lower cost loan options. About 65% of our earnings is coming through our finance business, so it's a big focus for us. About 25% of our earnings through our retail store network, and the rest through the franchise royalties that we collect globally. So a majority of the earnings driver for this business now is the finance business, and online has grown significantly. And I think we're at a point in time where demand through the community is increasing at a rate that we haven't experienced before, as cost of living pressures are starting to increase and interest rate rises are biting. We've also seen the advent of buy now, pay later really explode across the Australian retail sector and our consumer base. And that product operates with an exemption under the National Credit Act. So I think it's really important that there are well-regulated, larger providers of finance into this part, this sensitive part of the community that operate in a responsible way. We're really focused on using our technology to offer different innovative products to what is referred to as a subprime credit market to help people lower cost and move through and build a profile. So the small loan SAC loans are up to $2,000 and 12 months in term. The medium loans are up to $5,000 and up to 24 months in term. They're completely unsecured. That's just a personal loan that someone applies for and takes cash. We do then offer secure loan options. So we've got a vehicle loan that's secured against a vehicle, and a pawnbroking loan is a small secured loan essentially that is secured against a piece of jewellery held as collateral, and if not fully paid or redeemed, that item is then sold through the retail network as a form of debt recovery. And if there's any residual equity in that transaction of the loan amount owing versus the sale of the product that's in the customer's favour, that gets reimbursed to the customer. It's actually a really unique form of microfinance that is sometimes misunderstood, but operates, it still plays quite a significant part in the subprime credit market. And then we're innovating new products, as I say, lower cost, more flexibility. A lot of the products that many people in this room would have access to, we're trying to extend to our customer base to help people out. And all of the product is operated through our store or online. So we operate with big scale. We process 50,000 odd applications a month for a simple unsecured personal loan, a SAC or a MAC, and we process about 50,000 retail transactions a month. So it's a massive data-led business now. And I think the challenge when you're offering personal finance online is to responsibly meet your obligations and then to somehow determine the propensity of that person borrowing to repay you with a credit model. And like I say, we feed our credit models with a massive amount of historical data and external data sources to try and build a profile or a lookalike of that person when they present to predict how they're going to behave. And ultimately, overextending to someone or having someone not able to pay a lender back is not a good outcome for anyone. And we do take our responsible lending obligations seriously, and we have had a past of different issues with the regulator and different challenges trying to solve this problem that I think we now have with our technology and our platform. And all of our point of sale and lending platform technology is built in-house in Australia, out of Perth, supported out of Brisbane. It allows us to remain nimble. It allows us to control our technology. About growing to almost 20% of our retail transactions are transacted online now. And we operate a unique model there where the item's listed in store when it's procured and it's dispatched from that store. So a customer can go into the store and see the item, or we will transport the item nationally and we'll attach a 90-day warranty. We do provide a safe environment for that transaction to happen. A lot of people will find our items listed on one of the big online marketplaces, but like the opportunity to come into a store and not deal with a stranger and have that security and that comfort of a bigger corporate backing. Our online loan applications, like I say, we receive 92% of our applications online. We really use our technology in an automated fashion to decline a lot of that flow that we don't think is either suitable for the customer or a good credit risk. Every loan application that then gets through that first process runs through another process with a credit overlay. But ultimately, every loan that's approved is reviewed by a manual assessor out of Brisbane in Taringa, where our operation is. So we take great care before we actually extend finance to anyone. We have the vehicle business also operates under a separate brand called Greenlight Auto, and that's a B2B broker-dealer panel position in the subprime markets where we offer vehicle finance through that channel. And we have just generated a cashies car loan for the first time, and we're offering car finance through our store network. As I say, I think the thing here that I really would like to focus on is the machine learning element of our business. We've got 7 or 8 data scientists that we didn't have a few years ago. We're feeding our credit models with over 400 attributes. We take bank statements, we take credit files, we take a lot of information in to try and build a profile of a borrower. And it allows us to be quite specific as to who we choose to extend finance to. And it's really assisting with our provisioning around our loan books and our loss rates coming down. And that bringing that overall cost down to our business means we can pass some of those benefits through to our customers, where we can risk-base our pricing to a subprime borrower for the first time, which is really, I think, quite exciting. I think the scale with the technology really brings an advantage for us. You really need to have a great history of performance of people in your segment, and I'm talking, millions of bank statements and millions of customer records, millions of loans written to then train the machines and the models to predict an outcome with a borrower going forward, constantly adapting for future trends and anticipated increases in inflation or other external events. And it's really quite a science as to how that's conducted, which is impressive to see in a business like Cashies, which you might not expect operating that kind of function and operating on that sort of scale and deploying some pretty leading edge technology. Just briefly, our highlights, we've got pretty strong loan book growth off the back of COVID, when a lot of stimulus was put out through our customer segment in particular. Our loan books really paid down. They started performing in quite a prime way. Our loss rates really dropped. Our dishonour rates really dropped. But that customer cash that was received through the government stimulus has largely been spent, and we're seeing a big recovery in demand for product and finance, and we're seeing the loan books grow. I think the key point here is that growth rate and that gross loan book up 31% to $268 million is coming less from the small loan product that I was talking about. We've seen really strong growth in the medium loan and the other loan products. And that's feeding through to really strong top line revenue growth and double-digit EBITDA growth as well, which is great to see. And again, the loan book profiles just showing the expansion of the new loan products is something we're really focused on, and we're continuing to innovate and deliver new product as we speak. And that really brings me to our strategy. I think this business is positioned now in a way where we have a great platform that we've invested heavily in that gives us a really significant competitive advantage. And I think as we can take that platform and that technology into new customer segments, we're really releasing a lot of new product that will change the look and feel of this business. We're opening new stores. We've got 150, like I say, in Australia. I think we could probably have another 50 locations in Australia alone. We've got a smaller store concept where we're buying high-end watches, handbags, sneakers. That sort of inventory mix is changing, and we're seeing a different demographic coming into the business, probably more of Middle Australia starting to transact with us, and a change in the customer profile, which is really interesting. And we play an important part in that ESG position as well, obviously, as we eliminate landfill and reduce the the manufacturing emissions by using the pre-owned sort of model to propagate our inventory. And younger people are obviously more willing to buy something pre-owned than maybe older generations were in the past, which is good for us. And we will keep acquiring our franchise networks, and their earnings are accretive day one, and we can fold them into our corporate model quite easily with our management teams and our onshore management overlay. And our operational excellence just continues. We continue investing in our technology. We've just released a new customer app. We've got a great online retail and lending site, and we've got leading edge technology under the hood, as I say. So I think it's an exciting time for this company we are paying the dividend. We've paid 2 cents per annum for the last 3 years. And, you know, we do have a strong cash position to keep growing. So thank you for listening. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to answering any questions after. Thank you.
Generated a bit of a talk there, Sam. Well done. I'm going to have a chat with him afterwards. We've got one more to go before morning tea. I'll lock the door so you can't get out on this one, because this is a really interesting one. Sadly, I don't know about your family, but our family's certainly been touched by 10 million people every year, despite all the advancements, lose the battle against cancer every year. And some of them who do survive, their quality of life could certainly be a lot better. And there's a group of cancer patients who really are essentially ignored, and they're not an insignificant number by any stretch of the imagination. And that's where these guys come, Prescient Therapeutics. So if you look at their cell therapy, it's I suppose it's like the next gen of cell therapy, isn't it, really, for cancer? You've taken it to the next level. And when I was having a chat with Stephen is their CEO, Stephen Yatomi-Clarke, he was trying to explain to me it's kind of like a Lego set, if you like. So treating those cells as a Lego set to build up that whole picture. So it's a really interesting approach to medicine as well, because it's based on the understanding of how the disease is impacting the cells, as opposed to that whole picture, which I suppose eventually is the whole picture. Shall I be quiet and let you be the expert? Because that's exactly what this man is. I love. It's a really interesting topic. Again, would you please make welcome Stephen Yatomi-Clarke at his aim, which is to keep us alive and healthier for longer.
Thank you very much. And yeah, unfortunately, cancer needs no introduction. 40% of everyone gets it, which sadly means that 100% of us know that someone we love will have it. But rather than be grim, the good news is there's been more progress made in the last 5 to 7 years than in the entire history of medicine. And it's incredibly encouraging, not only for patients, but for shareholders who are on this journey with us. So again, we've got near-term opportunities and long-term value. We're about personalised medicine. I think we're seeing the dying days of, it's the beginning of the end, I think, of non-specific treatments for cancer, because people aren't different. People are different, and their cancers are all different. So we take a personalised therapy approach to solving these problems, and it looks to be working. In diseases of unmet need, there's no need to follow the pack and look at very well-served markets. There are plenty of diseases that are poorly served. That's where we play. We have 2 approaches: targeted therapies, which actually penetrate inside the cancer cells and switch off the problematic switches that render these cells to grow uncontrollably, and cell therapies, and they look on the outside of the cancer cell and latch onto the little markers that these cancer cells hoist up the flagpole. So they're the 2 broad approaches. And to introduce the company by way of investment highlights, we have a simple business model, simple philosophy: license the best technology you can from anywhere in the world and work with the best people. Yale, Oxford, Penn, and so on. They're who we have our, there's a real sleep at night factor with our scientific programs. We've got the cash to deliver on this. We're not rattling the tin now, thank goodness. We've got lots of shots on goal, especially in turbulent markets. You need to have a diversified pipeline. We have exactly that. I'm going to talk to you about the 3 pillars of the business today. First one is PTX 100, which is in the clinic right now showing promise. And I'm going to introduce you to our 2 cell therapy platforms as well, which are the future. And as a result of our diversified pipeline, lots of news flow. So again, the 3 pillars of the business I'm going to take you through today: the targeted therapies, PTX 100, in diseases of unmet need, but also our follow-on program, Cell Prime, which can be plugged into any cell therapy platform, and Omnicar, which is again treating cells like a Lego set. So let's start off looking at PTX 100, the first pillar of the business. It's a targeted therapy that penetrates inside tumour cells and switches off problematic switches. We're focusing on a disease, long story short, that you might not have heard of, called T-cell lymphomas. It's not the most common cancer, but there is precious little for people in this disease. Sam Neill, the actor, actually shone a little bit of light on this in the last couple of months when he came forward saying he's suffering from this type of cancer. And we have orphan drug designation for this program, meaning that once you have an approval in the US, 7 years of market exclusivity. So imagine that in any other business where you penetrate the world's biggest market and they guarantee no competition for 7 years. That's what the FDA has granted us. So what does the market opportunity look like for this? Well, I think one of the benchmarks is a competing drug called Folliton. It only works 27% of the time, i.e. 27% of patients will have some benefit, sometimes not a very good one. And look how much that costs, I kid you not, $800,000 US per patient per year, which I think is disgusting, to be perfectly honest. But what it does highlight is two things. One, the bar is set low in terms of the type of responses you need in this disease, and the price is set very high. So it might not be the world's biggest market, but you can see when you look at areas of unmet need, the commercial opportunity, if you can jump over what is relatively low hurdle. But it's tricky, and we're able to crack this nut, and I'll show you real world data proving that that is the case. This is called a swimmer's plot because it looks a little bit like an overhead view of swimmers in a pool. Basically, the longer the line, the longer these patients are lasting. And this line here is what drugs like Folliton do. So that red line represents what is currently available for these patients today. Basically, around a third of patients will get some sort of response, and for those lucky third, they will respond for 4 months at the most, typically 3 months. And you can see here, this trial is still ongoing now, that we are really making a difference. Normally you can demonstrate small benefits with many patients, a large number of patients, but you can demonstrate big differences with a smaller number of patients, and that's exactly what we have now. If we can continue this, it's going to be very, very exciting for us, but it's not looking random at this point in time. So this is, again, I don't know if it's come up quite well on these slides, but this is one example of a before and after, or a before and during, I should say. These lesions may not look much to you, but believe me, that's cancer, before and after. And these patients, some of these patients have failed 7 different therapies. So imagine that, going to the doctor, trying a cancer therapy, it doesn't work, so you go on to the next one, that doesn't work, and so on, and trying that 5, 6, 7 times, coming onto our trial and getting this. So we're changing people's lives. This is real world data, not hypothesis. So where to from here? The shortest possible route between now and an approval and getting revenues, pretty much. So we're expanding the trial now. We're going to read out this phase 1B trial at the end of this year, and we're preparing for a phase 2 study next year. Now that phase 2 study, we are hoping, will be a registration study. What does that mean? At the end of that study, the regulators will let you sell that drug. And we believe we'll be the only company on the ASX with a registration study next year. This will be the biggest inflection point in the company's history. So stay tuned. It's really exciting times. You've seen the data and you've seen what it looks like. So that's the first pillar of the business, but I've now got a little bit of time to talk to you about the last 2 pillars of the business, and it's in an area called cell therapies, which, as the name suggests, is using living cells as a medicine. It sounds like science fiction, but I promise you it's not. It's producing real therapies. There are 6 approved already, 3 of them available here in Australia and have been for a couple of years, and it's causing clinicians like the inventor of this whole field, Carl June, to declare that at least in a certain type of blood cancer, we can start to use the word cure. We're talking about 10-year durable remissions. And when you think about it with cancer, cells are the problem and cells will be the answer. The cancer can grow anywhere. Cell therapy can find it anywhere. The cells can replicate and persist. It is the ultimate medicine. So it basically works like this. Blood's collected from the cancer patient and we isolate certain types of immune cells, in this case T cells, but they don't have to be. You know, when your throat swells up when you get an infection, that is your body producing a new repertoire of soldiers that can fight that foreign invader, but it doesn't recognize cancer. So what we do quite cleverly is now outside of the body, you can reprogram these cells to have a new receptor that can now recognize the cancer as a foreign invader and get rid of it. So when you hear the term CAR T cell, it's basically a reprogrammed version of a cancer patient's own cells. Millions of these are grown up and they're given back to the patient. Now, it sounds like science fiction, but it's not. You're going to hear an interesting talk a little later on from another company called Aravella that are working in this similar space, albeit with a slightly different and very interesting cell type. But like any new modality, the first iteration is the clunkiest. Now think of the first mobile phone you ever had compared to what you're using now. Think of the first personal computer that you ever used compared to now. And the good news is for patients, as wonderful as CAR-T is, it's littered with issues that the first iteration has all around safety and efficacy pretty much. So that's the good news. And what we're about, we've got 2 platforms that solve not 1, not 2, but all of these. And the ultimate aim is to make these work safer, make them work better, and to increase their access. So that's what we're about, is solving all of these problems. So I'm going to take you through 2 of these platforms very quickly in the time we have left. I'm going to talk about Cell Prime. Now this works in 2 ways: when you manufacture the cells and when you give it to the patient. So it's a manufacturing enhancement. When you use it as a manufacturing enhancement, it basically produces more youthful cells that are CAR-T cells that are able to last longer and to kill for longer and to actually hone in and track and find the tumour where it is. So, and as a result, we can give this to any other CAR-T program and double its performance by simply adding in this manufacturing reagent, if you like. So again, anyone else working in this field, we can help them improve their program. So we've got a dog in that fight. So a very scalable business model. It can work as an adjuvant as well when it's given directly to the patient, and it works in a completely different way. In this case, what it's able to do is basically increase the number of these cancer-fighting cells in your body 9-fold. So imagine 9-fold more soldiers on the battlefield. That can only be a good thing, but it's not just that. 4 times more soldiers are able to breach those cancer's castle walls, if you like, and get into the tumour, which has been the problem in this field in solid tumours. So, and as a result, that can double the performance, especially when it's used together with Cell Prime M. So once again, scalable business model, because we can plug both of these platforms into anyone else's cell therapies. Last pillar of the business is a really interesting cell therapy platform called Cell Prime, which we've licensed from Oxford and University of Pennsylvania, the people who actually invented this space. And so if you think of a CAR-T, currently it's a very static type of model, and we modularize it. So the way to think about that is that we basically treat these cells, as per the introduction, like a Lego set. You know, when you get a Lego set, you can't just build a car or a house, or you can build anything. And we're offering that simple act of modularity actually enables a whole bunch of very sophisticated activities that capabilities this cell can now do. So basically, when you think about an existing CAR-T therapy, including the 6 that are approved on the market and 3 of them available in Australia, it's a soldier that only has 1 weapon, only has 1 map for 1 deployment, can only hit 1 target. You can't redirect them, and most disturbingly, once you've deployed that soldier in the field, you can't communicate with them. So not the best soldier to have in on your side, whereas what we're about through this modularity, you can have a soldier that can be armed with any weapon, including several at once, can have any map for multiple deployments. You can train them to hit any target, including several at the same time or sequentially, and can even have full communication and control in real time once you've deployed them, and can even send images back. So again, that's that simple act of modularity. So again, like your first mobile phone to one you're using now, as wonderful as cell therapy is now, and as much as it's changing the world, you can see how we can help really raise the fight and take it to the next level. And it enables a whole bunch of features that I don't have too much time to go into today, but basically think of it like this. These cells are able to be almost like remote controlled. We can switch them on, titrate up their activity, and we can switch them off. We can switch them back on again. We can switch out the binder and direct it from 1 cancer target to another, and we can plug on multiple different binders on it, so there's nowhere for cancers to hide if they express more than 1 target. So really this act of modularity is very, very powerful. And so here's how we sit in this really rapid field. If your head is spinning, this cell therapy field is booming, where do we look? Well, we think we offer really good exposure to this, because current available cell therapies that are approved now is the tip of the iceberg. But there's a whole bunch of companies working on really interesting things. The field is booming, different cell types, different immune components that people are engineering. They're putting different targets on them. They're making them in different ways. There's even applications beyond cancer. We're agnostic on all of that. We can enhance current ones and emerging ones. So again, if you want exposure to this exciting field, we think it's a really interesting way of doing it. So, and again, 35 seconds to finish up. Well, let's finish off where we started. So again, these come from the best possible places, Yale, Penn, Oxford, etc. So again, leveraging all of their expertise. We've got the cash to deliver, and you've seen, I've only had time to introduce you to the three main pillars, but there's lots of activity. Don't forget PTX 100, we've got maybe the biggest catalyst in the company's history coming up as that enters what we hope is a pivotal trial next year. And you saw that data I showed you on the swimmer plot. That's looking very, very real in a very lucrative and unmet market. And then we've got a piece of pie in the future as well with our cell therapy programs that are agnostic on targets. So many thanks for everyone, and again, right on the second. So thank you, everyone.
Bloody interesting, isn't it? Considering we started off regrowing limbs and tendons, it's not that short of a stretch of the imagination to imagine the soldiers running around and specifically targeting. I think it's fantastic. Some pretty incredible ways to change the world in that first session. Lots of blue sky, a number of companies innovating, some high risk, some high reward.